Hey there, Postal here. So there is a special event going on to where you can get some discounts on some really great planes, in my opinion. And I wanted to go ahead and do a quick review, maybe just a touch point on these planes and why, in my opinion, you definitely want to at least try to take a little bit of advantage of what's going on. It starts today, which would be December 8th, through December 13th, supposedly, but only super early in the morning. So really only have through December 12th. Let's take a quick look here. So this is going to be Universal Soldiers. So what do they mean by Universal Soldiers? Well, these are going to be your German multi-role line. And what that line is heading down here. Most people will go down the German heavies, or they'll go down the German light fighter line, which ends in the excellent MEP 1101. This is your BF 109s and your BF 110s. But this is going down the Focke-Wulf lines. So this line here that we're getting a bunch of discounts on starts off with fighters, dives off into multi-role fighters, but also has a little offshoot here of some more fighters. And so completely different line than your other German light fighters. And so we're going to take a quick look at some of those differences and why I think this is definitely something you want to try to take advantage of. First and foremost, though, let's see what kind of bonuses and discounts you get. So everything tier 7 and below is going to be 50% off both the, off on the credits. So whatever the normal cost of this would be, this is something like the tier 7 here, I think is going to be like 800,000 credits. And it's only going to be about 400,000 credits. I guess we could take a quick look and get exact numbers in just a second. But your tier 8s and 9s and 10s, you're going to get 30% off, which is still significant. Tier 10s are 6 million credits. Getting 30% off on that is going to cost you about 4.2 million credits, something around there, which is basically the cost of a tier 9. But if a tier 9 is 4.2, then getting 30% off of that is going to save you a little over 1 million credits. If your tier 8s are 3 million credits each, 2 million credits, we'll have to take a quick look. Again, you can do math, right? So 30% off is significant, even though it's not 50% off. You want to take advantage of it. There's a lot of really good planes on these lines, and we'll take a quick look at them in just a second. We're going to break down the actual percentage right now. So your tier 10s, so if the selling price is 3 million, that means they are literally 6 million. If you are saving 30%, that's going to be 1.8 million that you're saving. And so these would be 4.2 million. Planes at tier 9 are going to be costing, are they really only 3.5 million? Well, all right. So if they're only 3.5 million, then you'd still be saving about 1 million credits. And so these would only be 2.5 million to purchase. And then at tier 8, you're at 2.5 million credits, standard cost for the tier 8. Saving 30% on that will save you 750,000. And so you're only going to be, 1.75 million. So you're saving a significant amount of credits on these tier 8s and above. If you're tier 7, we're looking at 1.3 million. Actually, the selling price is what the cost is going to be, because the selling price right now is always half of what the original cost is, or half of what the current price is. So current price is full price. Your purchase price is something like the FW190D is 680,000. For the tier 6 is 455,000. For the FW190A-1 is going to be so paltry 158,000. So really, again, just if this is ever a line that you want to go down in the future, now's the time for the future. Let's take a quick look at these planes, and then we'll look at the end part of the missions themselves, because you can earn some additional credits and things of that nature. So tier 4, tier 2 through 4, excuse me. HE151, your FW159. I really don't remember them. I did buy back the HE112. The HE112 is a really underappreciated tier 4 fighter. You get 20 millimeter cannons, kind of like you would on the I-17, but unlike the I-17, you get decent altitude and speed. Not the same altitude and speed as everybody's favorite BF-109B, but you get harder hitting cannons than the BF-109B, and you get better maneuverability. So a really good plane, a small target. I kind of equate the HE-112 to being like a in-between, it's like the go-between a Spitfire and a BF-109B. Right in between those two planes would be the HE-112. Really strong plane at Tier 4. As far as Tier 5 through 7 is concerned, you're going to be having, let's just take a quick look here. Tier 5 through 7, you have the FW-190A-1, the A-5 at Tier 6, and the Adora, the D, at Tier 7. They're all really good planes, but they have to be played right. This line does not have maneuverability. These multi-rolls are not meant for dogfighting like Corsair would be. This is not that process. These, you're going to notice, in general, have some of the best altitude performance for their tier for multi-rolls, and some of the best airspeed for their tier for multi-rolls. Not necessarily the best, but right up there. What they do have going for them more than any other line is going to be its guns. The overall forward-firing armament for this Tier 5 is two 20mm cannons, two 13mm... let's go to Tier 5, excuse me. Sorry about that. For this, you've got two 20mm cannons and four 30 caliber machine guns at Tier 5. You're going to be doing a lot of damage. You've got pretty quick reloading. They're 50 kilogram bombs, but they do enough damage, supplemental damage. You want to use your speed and your altitude performance and your heavy hitting to really kind of boom and zoom and run away if you can in those types of situations. The A5 is going to be more of the same, except you actually get four 20mm cannons and these two 13mm machine guns. You get two rockets plus the four bombs that you were used to previously. Same kind of mentality as the FW-190A-1. It's a continuation at the A-5. And the Dora, the Tier 7 plane, I really enjoy, but not a lot of people do. The 30mm cannons on it can be a little wonky. They are wing mounted, and so the accuracy of them can be hit or miss, no pun intended. But you get these two 30mm cannons, two 20mm cannons, and then the two 13mm machine guns, so you can do a little bit of everything. You get the same rockets that you had the previous tier, I believe. Don't quote me. Yep, you can quote me. Same rockets that you had in the previous tier, but you get a 250-pound bomb, 250-kilogram bomb, excuse me. And so you're able to do a little bit more overall damage with that process. I really like the Dora. Again, not a lot of people do, just because it is Tier 7 and it can be kind of a funky tier to get stuck in against Tier 8s and things of that nature. But this plane hits above its weight. What I like about the FW-190s in general is you kind of feel like you're a heavy fighter as far as your gunfire is concerned. Really, the FW-190D could very easily be compared to an ME-410. Granted, that's a tier lower heavy fighter, but it's still a heavy fighter. And I kind of equate a lot of the FW-190A5 and A-1 in similar kind of vein as far as my usage and my success in these particular planes. So those are going to be the planes that you can get a 50% discount on. Next up, we've actually got a split. Tier 8, 9, and 10 split. Let's go ahead and let's actually talk about the fighters first, because I feel like the fighters are the less dynamic of the group here. The tech tree, after you've gone through the FW-190s, you'll jump over to you can either jump over to the fighters here, which will end on another Fokker-Wulf, or you can go down the BVP line here that ends with the Batwings. This is the line that people typically tend to go down. So we're going to talk about this one first, and then go back to this one here, because all 6 of these Tier 8 through Tier 10s are at 30% discount. So you might want to take advantage of, if you've already gone down the Batwing line, taking advantage of going down the FW-252 line. Maybe Batwings are not your forte. I don't know why that would be, but maybe you want to go down this particular line because you know you're going to get the Batwings one day anyway. So why don't you go down a line on the cheap that you might not necessarily have gone down if you didn't do that. So first things first, in my opinion, the worst plane of all these planes, and this is the TA-152. TA-152, on paper, should be a really strong plane. Really great altitude performance for Tier 8. Excellent airspeed. Kind of reminds me of a P-51H. If you compare it to a ME-209A, you've got the same altitude performance, slightly worse airspeed, but probably only because my ME-209A is specialized and my TA-152 isn't. Significantly worse maneuverability in the TA-152. It is very, very poor maneuverability. But you've got these, on paper, excellent 30mm cannons. They do okay damage, but they super long range sniper type cannons. The problem I have with these cannons is there's one hub mounted and two right on the wings here, is I just can never seem to hit anything. I've played almost every single plane in the game, every single fighter for sure. And so I know how to use flippin' snipery 30mm cannons. In fact, I quite enjoy them quite a lot on quite a lot of planes. Not on this plane, I just can't get it to work. I'm sure it's something with me. I just haven't been able to figure out what that something is yet. So the TA-152 is a plane that I just was so glad to get past. And we'll leave it at that. After that is actually a Tier 9 that you don't see very often. That on paper doesn't actually look very good at all, and yet I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite planes in the game. This is the TA-183 Huckabee. What is this plane? Well, it has four 30mm cannons. It's actually the same exact 30mm cannons that you would get on the ME-262, a Tier 8 heavy fighter. So you've got heavy fighter firepower on the front of this little tiny jelly bean of a plane. Great airspeed, good altitude performance, actually great altitude performance, really poor maneuverability for a fighter, and really strong cannons. So what does this lead me to do in this plane? In the TA-183, use it as a heavy fighter assassin. Basically, you're a wannabe heavy fighter because you've got better maneuverability than a heavy fighter, and that's it. You can take on heavy fighters and outmaneuver them. Do not try to get into dogfights with fighters. Heck, try not to get into dogfights with most multi-rolls. You're going to regret it. But what you can do is with your heavy fighter guns here, and you've got 4 of them, you can chunk down bombers, you can chunk down heavy fighters, you can chunk down ground attackers, and get away and just be a pain in the butt. And so take advantage of that. That's the Tier 9 TA-183. The FW-252 is actually kind of more of the same. You have two 30mm cannons. These are the same 30mm cannons that you get on the HG3, I believe, and they do the same damage. I know that. So but you're only getting 2 instead of 4 of them. So these are heavy fighter cannons, but just a smaller amount of them. But like the TA-183, this plane does not like to maneuver. It's got pretty good altitude performance. It's kind of middling actually for Tier 10, I should say, but very good airspeed. And the 30mm cannons just love tearing up those same high health pool targets that you would have liked tearing up in the TA-183. And so that's where this plane is going to excel. I personally like taking out the Swift. The Swift in my hands does everything that the FW-252 does, but I like the Swift better. It has more maneuverability. That being said, I haven't specialized the FW-252. I suspect the 252 will have some strengths that the Swift doesn't have. But other than that, if you can excel with a Swift, you should be able to excel with an FW-252. Quickly, let's take a look at we're going to look at the BVP 210, 212, and 215. These collectively are known as the Batwing planes, as you're going to see here in just a second. At Tier 8, you have the BVP 210. Great Tier 8 multi-role fighter. The Tier 8 and the Tier 9 are really fighters in everything but name. They have They do better with air-to-air rockets, which they do get. They get the option of air-to-ground rockets, but they're kind of weak, and they take you out of the battle. The BVP 210 and 212 have great maneuverability, on par with some of the fighters in the game. And that's what I mean by this is really a fighter in everything but name. The air-to-air rockets are great for getting Rocketeers. They're little tiny rockets. They don't do a ton of damage, but they do enough damage to kill enemy airplanes. And so you're going to want to utilize this plane as that. This plane has two 20mm cannons. Does damage. You're not going to be tearing up any high health pool planes with your guns quickly. You will definitely be able to kill them, but it can take a little while when you just have two 20mm cannons at tier 8. But otherwise, great maneuverability, good airspeed, good good altitude performance for a multi-role. But keep in mind, you are still a multi-role, and so that altitude performance is impacted. You won't have the same altitude performance as a lot of your fighter contemporaries at this tier. What you do jump up with in the BVP 212 is, I mean, really cool looking plane, right? You get an extra cannon. Same cannon, but an extra one, which basically means that you have you've got 50% more firepower. You've got the same air-to-air rockets. If you choose the air-to-ground rockets, they actually reload quicker on this plane. But the air-to-air rockets is typically the way to go in this situation. This plane is tier 9 instead of tier 8. And so, you just have to be mindful of what you're running into. Again, still great maneuverability for a multi-role. Pretty good maneuverability for a regular fighter, for that matter. Your airspeed gets a significant jump up over tier 8, and your altitude performance gets an okay-ish bump up as far as that is concerned. Really two very, very popular and good multi-role fighters at tier 8 and tier 9. As far as tier 10 is concerned, now you get a chunky boy Batwing. This BVP 215 is kind of the opposite of the BVP 210 and 212. This is a multi-role in name only, but it really wants to be a heavy fighter, not a light fighter. This actually plays a lot more like the FW190s than the BVP 210 and 212, a lot more. You have 4 air-to-ground rockets, which don't do a lot of ground damage, but they do some ground damage. You have 56 air-to-air rockets on the frontier. You could conceivably take out all the aircraft that you want. So the problem that you're going to run into is nobody in their right mind, and certainly no bot, goes head-on versus a BVP 215. And so rarely do you even get to use all these rockets for an enemy aircraft. You could conceivably use these rockets for ground targets. They are weaker than air-to-ground rockets, but I mean, if you're not using them for air targets, then you might as well use them for something. You do get an extra machine gun again, so now you've got 4 20mm cannons. It does feel a lot more comfortable now that you've got 4 of them, even at tier 10. You are able to do some pretty darn good damage. And last but not least, you've got a rear gunner. Now this rear gunner has, forgive me here, has a 13mm machine guns. So you've got that going for you. You've got the same hit point pool as the American and German heavy fighters. And so, use that health pool to your advantage. But keep in mind, you do not have any maneuverability, especially compared to your tier 8 and tier 9 brethren. At tier 10, you lose all that maneuverability. You are literally on par with heavy fighters. You have really good altitude performance for a multi-role, but really poor altitude performance for a heavy fighter. Reasonably good airspeed. Now keep in mind, mine is not specialized, so I haven't been able to maximize my metrics here. Overall, this plane is about getting your guns and your rockets on target, trying to be a force multiplier. This plane tends to do better in a flight just because on its own can't necessarily carry battles. You're a force multiplier, and if your friendlies in this instance aren't all that good, you're multiplying not very good times you, which doesn't usually end up well. So if you've got a flight partner that is just good enough, that's all you need is somebody to be good enough, and you can multiply that and do really well. I enjoy the BVP 215, but I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I think it is a very solid platform to be able to kind of do a little bit of everything. And so that is the overall, just a quick overview of this entire line. I'll definitely be posting some specific videos about some specific planes. If you guys have one of any of these planes that you want to see, give me a heads up. I might just do a longer video, like showing all 3 Batwings and all 3 of the Fokker Wolf light fighters. The other ones are TA-152 and TA-183. And then maybe do a video on the FW-190s, all 3 of them. So that's probably what I'm going to do, just so we can have a little bit of everything going on. But I highly recommend that you take advantage of the discounts that are going on. And so as far as the missions are concerned, overall during this time frame, 5,000 personal points in a single battle. You're going to get a boost in your battle experience and a boost in your credits. This is incredibly important. So not only do you have your discounts going on, to where you're going to be able to take advantage of getting these items on the cheap, but you're also going to be earning credits quicker, and you're going to be able to grind quicker. And so, again, if you've ever wanted any one of these planes, now's the time to do it, because you're going to be getting it quicker than twice as fast. Quicker than double the speed. You'd be getting double speed just on first tier through 7th tier. But the fact that you're getting a boost in experience means you're going to be getting to that research quicker. And then because you're able to get 50% extra credits, you're going to be able to get the amount of credits that you need even quicker, even though it's half the amount. So you're really going to be able to fly down this line as long as you're able to get at least 5,000 personal points in a single battle. This is repeatable. It doesn't require you to win. You just need to get 5,000 personal points. Now, there's 3 different missions here. Coming Storm Part 1, 40 enemy aircraft while defending sectors in any one of the Period 1 planes, Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can get a advanced collimator sight and some airframe elements and mechanical parts. It's funny that the sight that you get is for Period 2. Let's continue on. Coming Storm Part 2. So this is your Tier 5 through 7. This is your Period 2 planes. To complete the mission, 3,000 capture points for destroying aerial targets. Keep in mind, again, I fly the FW-190s and have had the most success flying them like heavy fighters. So you really want to kind of boom and zoom. Stick with them when sticking with them will kill the plane. But keep in mind, you're not going to be able to outturn much of anything, so just keep that in mind. 3,000 capture points for destroying aerial targets. Once you've done that, you'll get a gyroscopic sight for Period 3, and some heat resistance parts, and some radio electronics. Coming Storm Part 3. So to do this, you'll need to be in any one of the Tier 8 through 10 planes that we talked about. TA-152, BVP-210, TA-183, BVP-212, FW-252, or the BVP-215. 100,000 hit points of damage to aerial targets in any number of battles, and you'll earn yourself 3 unique supply crates. The fact of the matter is, any one of these planes can get that pretty quickly. BVP-210 and the TA-152 are going to take the longest just because of their tier. But the BVP-210 can do some decent damage, especially if you're getting rockets on target. The TA-152 can make you want to pull your hair out just because you're going to miss 90% of your shots. The TA-153 and the BVP-212 at Tier 9 both put out substantial amount of firepower. The TA-183, because I tend to focus on heavy fighters, bombers, and GAs in that plane, can probably get this pretty quickly just because you're focused on high health pool, high damage targets. The 212 obviously has those 320mm cannons, and you've got the air-to-air rockets, so you can certainly do some damage that way as well. And then at Tier 10, both of these can do some decent damage, getting those 100,000 HP, especially since you'll be going against Tier 10s all the time. The HP is going to be just always there and available. Again, the 252, you want to try to focus on going versus those targets that you can outmaneuver, which isn't a whole lot, but you can get the chunk damage. And the 215, obviously, can just do a little bit of everything if the enemy lets you. So you can get 3 unique supply crates there. Some other things, if you're not going to be doing this mission, you can take advantage of those that are going to be doing the mission, and to complete the retaliation strike, which you can do over and over again, you just need to destroy 3 German fighters or multi-role fighters in a single battle. So it doesn't even need to necessarily be these planes. A German fighter could be a BF-109. So keep that in mind. If you can kill 3 German fighters, you can get yourself an additional 25% crew experience. What's kind of funny about this, you could actually do this in your German fighters. So, you know, if you're out there in your BVP 210, you can go out there and try to take on MU 209s and a TA 152s and knock out a FW 190D and get yourself a plus 25% crew experience. So I know this was a really, really quick video, yet not a very quick video. You know, talking about quite a few different planes all at once. Well, it leads you to kind of fly through them. But I hope this is helpful. I hope this gets you a little bit excited, because you should be excited. This overall line has some real gems. BVP 210 specifically stands out. 212 is an excellent plane as well. There's some underappreciated and underloved planes as well. TA 183 is definitely one of those planes that I think doesn't get enough respect. The FW 190D, FW 190A-1, I think are really, really good planes, have a very positive impact on the battle. They just really, when it comes to any of these planes, don't put them in a position that they're not going to succeed in. And that could be said of any plane, right? But what I tend to see a lot of people struggle with in the FW 190s is they try to dogfight with them, or they try to turn when they shouldn't be turning, or they try to go up to high altitude when they've used up all their boost, and you're going to set yourself up for failure in that kind of situation. Turn when the engagement dictates it, when you know you can kill the plane in front of you. Otherwise, you know, keep going in a speedy line, whatever direction that happens to be in, and you can have great success in this entire line, but especially the FW-190s. So yeah, get yourself ready for the upcoming missions. I'm going to be enjoying myself. I hope you guys enjoy yourself as well. I know on EU, I'm actually on this line right now, so even better. Maybe that's why I'm so excited, but you should be excited too. Thank you so much, and I'll see you out on the battlefield. Bye.